Undead is coming to Battlegrounds, and without any further ado, I want to take a look at the new minions. Let's start things in a crazy way with Sister Death Whisper. She's probably the engine of Undead, the most powerful card. 411 is the stat line. And after a friendly minion is reborn, you give your Undead +1/+3 permanently. What's great about this card is that it also works with Gas Coiler reborn. You don't have to like play only Undead. Obviously, you benefit from playing only Undead, but you don't have to. That's just crazy. Like, she's such a good engine to buff your board. Nothing like we've seen so far, because she buffs during the fight, where we are usually used to like Kalegos or Atisa buffing outside of the fight. I think this is gonna be an absolute monster of a card, and I cannot wait to play with it. Let's see what other synergies we have with her before we jump into seeing all the minions. Its number one synergy is with Soul Splitter. Soul Splitter is a 4-star, 4/2 reborn that start of combat gives another Undead reborn as well. Basically, he gives you all the reborns that you need to be able to get a lot of stats from your sister. Perfect, right? Now let's go to 1-drops and start slowly, advancing through the taverns. Reason Rider is a 1-drop Taunt Reborn Undead. Basically reminds me of Acolyte of Cthulhu, but unlike Acolyte of Cthulhu, it's an Undead. And also, for Undead, having the Reborn tag is just like very, very useful. They benefit a lot from that. On Tavern 1, we also have Rothhide Gnoll, which has +1 attack for each friendly minion that died this combat. I don't think this card is that powerful, but maybe there are some situations where you can play it. If you decide to stay a little bit more on Tavern 1, or if you have nothing better, it's still a 1/4. From my understanding of the Battlegrounds game, I think this just gets the attack for the current combat, and that's it. Nothing before, nothing after. So you want to play it last in your squad and hope that it grows a little bit, and maybe you get like a 2/4 or 3/4 or 4/4, and then it value trades something at the end. But usually, minions that have 4 health, you want to put them very early in the fight, because they can trade and survive the trade more likely. So this is not that great of a card, but let's continue. The last 1-drop Undead has is Helping Hand. 2/2 reborn. Simple and effective. For 2-drops, we have a few bangers. Let's start off with Eternal Night. Eternal Night is one of my favorite 2-drops ever. I didn't even play with it yet, but it's still one of my favorite 2-drops ever. Why? It has +1/+1 for each Eternal Night that died this game, wherever this is. So basically, it encourages you to get it as soon as you possibly can, get another copy of it, and then just scale them. Just scale them. Just scale them. Also, there might be some synergies in the future with this card. Keep an eye out for that. Also on Tavern 2, we have Nerubian Death Swarmer. Nerubian Death Swarmer gives your Undead +1 attack for the rest of the game, wherever they are. So basically, it buffs your future Undeads as well, if I understand this card correctly. But for that, it's a 1/3 for 2 stars. Kind of low power, if you ask me. But I can definitely see a start where you stay a little bit more on 1, you get like 2 or 3 Undead minions, and then you just play Nerubian Death Swarmer. Or a situation where you want to cycle Nerubian Death Swarmer on the later taverns just to buff your board. Both can work. I think it's more of a utility card than a card that you want to hit immediately when you hit Tavern 2. The last, but not least, 2-drop that Undead has is Scarlet Skull. 1/2, reborn, Death Rattle, give a friendly Undead +1/+2. It's not too great, but it's not too bad either. The way I see this card functioning is, let's say on 5 gold, your Tavern 2, you can buy this and another Undead. This one, you put it first, it buffs your other Undead, you're gonna win the fight, you're gonna be happy. It's also a reborn for like future synergies. Maybe you want that. Maybe you care about that. I think it's a good support card. Definitely it's going to be like really, really bad on its own. But it's really good together with at least another Undead, obviously. Not a bad card. Not really a game-changing card, but it's okay. It's a fine support card on Tavern 2. Tavern 3 also brings pretty good minions to us. We have some minions that you don't even need to play Undead to be able to utilize, such as Ghoul of the Feast, which is basically a bird body, but for only giving you attack. It gives you quite a lot of attack, but it's not really the best minion unless you play with Divine Shields. But let's say you're having a really bad game, and you have like Bronze Warden, whatever, just random Divine Shields. Random Divine Shields, one or two random minions, good of the feast. You can just win a few fights from a really bad position single-handedly because of this card. Is this card gonna be like the first thing you look for when you get to Tavern 3? Probably not. Is this card something that you want to play with Undead? Probably not. But it's an Undead card that can help other compositions as well. And I like that a lot. I think that's really nice. Now, on Tavern 3, we also have cards that help the Undeads. We have Jelly Belly, which, after a friendly minion is reborn, gain +3/+3. Why do I think this card is an Undead card? Because Undeads are the only ones that can get reborn super early in the game consistently. And later on, this card is not going to be so good because the buff happens during the fight. Because the buff happens during the fight, it means it's not permanent. It's a lot of stats, but they're not permanent stats. Still, Jelly Belly comes with a pretty good stat line. If you get one Reborn plus Jelly Belly, that's already worth it. So I think he's just an Undead that can bridge the gap between your between your early mid game. Kind of like that. I don't think he's gonna be one of the cards that you're gonna be super happy to get, but it's gonna be a decent card. Lich Doctor is very interesting because it's another card that can be played outside of Undead. Basically, it's a free to taunt, worthless, for a 3-star especially. But here's the catch. At the start of your turn, so after you played your combat, every single minion that died gets +1/+1 permanently. Not bad. It's actually quite an interesting card. And, for example, imagine a situation where you stay a lot on Tavern 1, you get a triple, you go to 2, triple into this, and then you can just buff your board a lot of times, like 2 or 3 turns, and then just constantly pog level thanks to it. It can be one of the good cards to discover from Tavern 2, even if you're not playing Undead. I don't think this card makes you want to play Undead. It's not bad with Undead, but I don't think you necessarily need to play Undead to make this card work. Moving to Tavern 4, we have some really interesting cards. So we have the Soul Splitter that we already discussed, probably my favorite 4-drop, and one of my favorite Undead cards because it makes Sister Death Whisper work so much better. We have also Possessive Banshee, which gives an Undead +2/+7 on a Battle Cry. That's a lot of health. And Undead kind of need health because they have crazy amounts of attack. It's funny because Banshee herself is an Undead minion that is a 2/7. So not that much attack, a lot of health. And she gives all she has to somebody else. She still keeps the stats, but I think they went for the stat line intentionally. And it's a nice catch. It's a really powerful card, and I think it's going to be the card that most people are going to cycle to give their Undead health, because your minions are going to be very glass cannon if you don't do this. Tavern 4 also has Handless Forsaken, which in my opinion is a pretty bad version of Nest Matron. It's basically a 2/3 that gives you a 2/2, which gives you a 2/1. That's it. But here's the catch. If you manage to reborn it, it's a 2/3 that gives you a 2/2 that gives you a 2/1. But it's also a 2/1 that gives you a 2/2 that gives you a 2/1. Still not wow. And you probably can use your reborn a little bit better, but I guess it's just a little bit of something extra. Also, the reborn hand that you get is really good with the Sister. So maybe if you already have the engine with like this, the other reborn guy, the Soul Splitter, and the Sister, you can make some nice combos with them. But I don't think it's gonna be a staple. I could be wrong. I could definitely be wrong. But I think it's hard to use. Basically, it's pretty bad before you reborn it, and even if you reborn it, it's mediocre. To make it good, you need Sister. So maybe we're gonna have a situation where you discover Sister early, and if you get Sister, then you get this and the reborns, and utilize it to make it work. That could work. I still don't think it's a great card, but it's probably not a great card for a good reason. Undead has a lot of really great cards already. And if this was any better, it would be like just mind-blowing. Moving to Tavern 5, we have Anubarak, the Nerubian King. Your Undead have +2 attack for the rest of the game, wherever they are. I feel like this card is good, but it accomplishes what Undead already kind of does, give attack. I mean, I think you will need attack because we saw quite some cards give you health. Maybe a card that gives you attack is not bad. Reborning Anubarak definitely is going to be good, and permanent buffs are also like really good. I don't know if it's gonna be a permanent unit in your Undead lineup. Can only be played with Undead, which kind of is not the best. But I think it has its place, maybe even to like dilute the pool. We also have Hungering Abomination. Avenge 1, gain +1/+1 permanently. Now, that's an interesting card. It can grow a lot, but it requires time to grow a lot. I feel like if you have the perfect composition with a lot of reborns, this card can be good. But if you have the perfect composition, don't you win already anyways? Do you really need this card? I'm afraid this might be one of the more win more cards. And with how Undead is structured, I feel like you kind of want to discover for 6 drops and not for 5s. But if you do that, it's a good card to just pick up on 5 after you got your 6s. So basically, I don't see him being the main engine of an Undead composition, but he can help you out a little bit here and there. We'll see. It's a kind of hard cards to evaluate. I don't see it being that amazing, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe just the Undead tag on it is gonna make it super sick. So far, I'm kind of impressed with Undead and I like the archetype. But let's move to 6 drops and see if there's anything other than the sister that can be super powerful there. We have Colossus of the Sun, which is a lot of stats and then a lot of stats. Basically, it's a 6/6 Divine Shield, and then it reborns as a 6/1 Divine Shield. Nice. It's, in my opinion, a better gas spoiler most of the time. Of course, you don't have the high roll of Leroy, but you also don't have the low rolls. And it's mostly good when you're fighting up. When you're fighting powerful monsters, it's not that good if you're fighting 1/1s. So, it depends on the situation, but I think it can be just a powerful minion. Also, because it's an already reborn minion, it synergizes with everything. From the sister to other cards that give attack and health. And I think because it's a natural Divine Shield, it's the perfect vessel to get the stats. It's the perfect minion to add health and attack to. Really powerful card. It can stabilize you, and it can carry your game. I think it's a really powerful 6-drop. And now for the last card, but not least, the last 6-drop, Eternal Summoner. Death Rattle summoned 2 Eternal Knights. I told you it's coming. So, if you kept your Eternal Knights from early game, this bad boy can summon 2 or at golden version even 4 Eternal Knights. Absolutely amazing. And it's just gonna work super well with the sister as well. I already think there's a lot of ways of like buffing everybody and everything, but maybe I'm thinking like too much. Maybe it's gonna be Undead having Eternal Knight strategy be one independent strategy, and then Sister plus Reborn being something else. I currently think Sister plus Reborn is gonna be the best, but it's also like the most obvious one. We're gonna have millions of players just play, and in a few weeks we're gonna figure out what are the best cards and how to utilize them. Right now, I can tell you that for sure, Reborn Undead is gonna be good. Eternal Knight Undead seems fun. I'm not sure if it's gonna be as good. Can you play Eternal in the Reborn composition? Yes, but it's gonna be a little bit of a struggle because the minions don't naturally come with the Reborn. As you can see, both Eternal Knight and Eternal Summoner do not have natural Reborn. Just Eternal Summoner has Dev Rattle. But Dev Rattle is not Reborn, so yeah, you can give Reborn with Soul Splitter, but it's not really like the same. Either way, Undead was super fun. I'm very excited for the new season, and I cannot wait to play some games for you guys. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to follow, and also check out my stream at twitch.tv/RDULive.